Hello everybody, my name is Brianna Bilo and I'm a meteorologist here with the National Weather Service office in Grand Junction, Colorado, and this is your July 2025 monthly weather summary. So kicking things off, our story of the month was the July wildfires. As most of you know, we managed to go a good chunk of the year so far without any major wildfires, but that did all change in the month of July. So we've been under drought conditions for the last several months. The last several months have been overall warmer and drier than normal. And as we moved into July, we started to see this continuation of critical fire weather conditions. And unfortunately, on the morning of July 10th, early in the morning, we had just enough moisture and there was just enough of a little bit of a disturbance moving through that we ended up with some nocturnal thunderstorms that moved across the central part of the area. So think like Moab, Grand Junction, Montrose, Gunnison, that kind of corridor there, and produced a substantial amount of lightning that sparked several wildfires. And 4 of those became major wildfire incidents, and so that included the Turner Gulch fire, the Wright Draw fire, which ended up being associated with Turner Gulch because they were very close to each other, the Deer Creek fire in the LaSalle's, and the Sow Belly fire, which was further south from Turner Gulch, and the South Rim fire, which burned through the Black Canyon, the Gunnison National Park. And as you can see from these images here, those fires did do some substantial damage. This is part of the campground at Black Canyon of the Gunnison. Some parts of the park were worse off than others. This was some of the worst damage. There were other places in the park that suffered less, and they managed to protect the visitor center and a few of the other buildings in the park. And then also with the Deer Creek fire, that fire burned so intensely and the winds were aligned just such that it produced a fire tornado that ultimately ended up being rated as an EF2 with the estimated peak winds of 122 miles per hour. There were no injuries or deaths, but it did do some property damage to some buildings that were in the vicinity when it formed. So once the fire season got going, it got going. We did get a little bit of a reprieve at the end of the month as we saw a period of increased moisture, which really tamped down fire activity, allowed the firefighters to get in and really work on getting these fires contained and eventually out. But unfortunately, as I am recording this in early August, we are back to hot, dry, and windy conditions, and we've seen a round of dry thunderstorms, and we have several large new fires across the area, and unfortunately, the Turner Gulch woke itself back up again, so we've also got that one to deal with as well. So while we didn't have a fast start on fire season, boy, did it not waste any time. Moving into our rundown of some of the data from the month, we have our highest temperatures that occurred. The highest high was 104 degrees in Canyonlands on the 9th, and our lowest high was 88 degrees in Aspen on the 9th and the 13th. And you can tell by looking at these numbers that our hottest period was really early in the month, that, week of 9th to say the 15th. And then we kind of actually stayed closer to normal as the month went through. If you go and check out the written summary, which is linked below, you can actually see that our temperature departures, while definitely showing that we had above normal temperatures, are not super crazy. They're anywhere from 1/10 of a degree above normal. These are mean temperatures, by the way, so the mean of the highs and lows. Anywhere from 1/10 of a degree above normal to almost 3 degrees above normal, which compared to some of the things that I've seen doing this for the last 4 years is really not that bad. I'd love to see below normal temperatures, but beggars can't be choosers. Moving on to low temperatures. Our coldest low was 40 degrees in Craig on the 26th and the 27th, and our warmest low was 59 degrees, which occurred here in Grand Junction on the 4th of July. And these are a lot more scattershot, so we didn't really have any particularly intense cold spells during the month, the way that we did see that period of particular warmth. Precipitation, not great news, but I figure you should expect this considering everything that happened in the month of July. All of our 10 climate sites came in with below normal precipitation. I will say these are just 10 sites, and the majority of these are located in valley locations, and the valleys definitely did suffer worse compared to higher elevation locations where thunderstorms actually developed over the higher terrain and did actually produce some rain. When we get to the drought update, you'll actually see that the central San Juan Mountains actually had some drought improvement because they managed to have consistent thunderstorms during the month that eventually were able to produce decent amounts of rain. But that was really the only area that didn't worsen or stay the same as far as drought is concerned. So really overall, we saw a drier month. The most precipitation fell at Aspen with 1.4 inches, which was a little over 0.2 of an inch below normal. And again, this kind of shows you the higher elevation sites, of which Aspen is technically one of, fared better as far as precipitation is concerned, because no other site got even close to an inch, let alone almost an inch and a half of precipitation. Where some of these sites like Durango and Cortez really should have been over an inch. Because this is monsoon season, and those two sites being at the foothills of the San Juans and in southwest Colorado tend to do really well, but clearly not so hot this year. The lowest precipitation we saw was at Canyonlands, where they got just 0.03 of an inch, which was a half an inch below normal. And look at Vernal, not dead last, yay! They got a whole whopping 0.08 of an inch of precipitation. But no one fared particularly well this month. Most of our departures were close to half an inch or worse, with the exception of Aspen. Drought update though, as I said, one spot of good news. We did see some improvement over the San Juans. The rest of the area either stayed the same or got worse. We saw extreme drought, so D3, expand into the central mountains and then up along the divide into northwest Colorado. We saw a little bit of D3 develop in the foothills of the eastern Uinta Mountains. Wide area of D2 severe drought and pockets of still D1 moderate drought across the area. So with the exception of this little pocket of abnormally dry conditions, not looking so great drought-wise. And as far as the Climate Prediction Center is thinking as with the drought tendency, so what's going to happen with this drought, we are looking at everywhere where there is drought, it's going to stay or get worse. And that little pocket where we did see improvement, they're saying drought development likely. So most likely through the month of August, we will see this lovely little patch of abnormally dry conditions degrade into significant drought again, into D1, D2, moderate to severe drought conditions. And that is unless the month of August surprises us all with a sudden monsoonal burst, which can happen. But the Climate Prediction Center is really not thinking that way. They are very strongly favoring us for above normal temperatures. This dark red pocket is 60 to 70% tendency towards above normal temperatures, with this slightly lighter color being 50 to 60% tendency towards above normal temperatures. So like really heavily gunning towards those above normal temperatures for the month of August. And they are favoring us for below normal precipitation as well. This is a 40 to 50% chance of covering, or 40 to 50% tendency towards below normal precipitation, covering the vast majority of the area, with the 33 to 40% chance surrounding it. So the Climate Prediction Center has really jumped on the you're going to continue to be hot and dry train, which is really not great news and not the news I'd like to give you guys, but unfortunately that's kind of how this season, this end of the season is starting to look. We could be surprised. Things can happen. Small things can change that end up in us getting significant precipitation rather than staying dry. We shall have to see, but it's not looking fantastic. Come back in a month, and we'll see how we did with the month of August, and we'll take a look at what Climate Prediction Center is thinking for the month of September. And you will also, if you're interested, have a seasonal summary as well for the summer season, which is June, July, and August. But with that, that is it for the month of July summary. I hope you enjoyed. Definitely you can go and check out the written summary. There's some different information and different presentation to the information that might tickle your fancy if you're into that sort of thing. Yeah, see you again in a month.